good morning, everybody. Welcome to Exponential Traction, and we are live. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Press the wrong button. Sorry about
There we
that.
go.
Good morning, everyone. It's supposed to be good. Woo! Big round of applause. Wrong button. Okay, so we're figuring this out. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Exponential Traction. And we are live on multiple platforms. Type yes in the chat box, in the comments box if you're already with us. Good morning, everybody. I couldn't charge as much. Now, how many of you realize that a lot of entrepreneurs are missing out big time in terms of maximizing their revenues or their income because they don't know how to price their product? Type relate if you can relate to any of that. And if you're an entrepreneur, let us also know what is it that you do. Okay, go ahead, type that in the comments box. You're either monitoring this on my page, on my channels, or on Cameron's channels, on JL's channels, on Annie's channels, or on Jerica's channels, as we are broadcasting this all over the world. All right, good. So, and the challenge with entrepreneurs who are having difficulty with charging their products is that they end up pricing themselves too low or they give away too much discount. But you know what happens next? That only erodes the overall product value and will require more units to sell, more effort, more money, and more energy along the way. So this is why. So why is this happening? Okay, you might ask, right? And how can you overcome it? And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today in this episode of Exponential Traction. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever may be the case for you. My name is Mack. Comandante. I'm an international award-winning business transformation consultant and coach. And over the past 5 years alone, I've coached and trained over 20,000 entrepreneurs, helping them remove constraints towards exponential growth. I'd like to introduce the two fine gentlemen who are with me right now, and also going to give them time after. Let me start off with JL De Castro. I know JL for several years now. Great guy, an artist, and also someone who is an expert with regard to digital marketing. Okay, and also you can see here you have Cameron Arsenault. Okay, all the way from, where are you now? I'm always confused. You're in Mexico, right?
We're in Mexico right now, all the way from Mexico.
Exactly. Okay, great. And I've known Cameron as well for several years, and he is an expert with organic marketing. So if you'd like to learn a thing or two about expanding your reach, okay, these two guys are the best at what they do. But allow me to bring them to you so that they can also introduce themselves. Okay, Cameron, let's go to you. Would you like to introduce yourself? Tell the audience what is it that you actually do.
Awesome. Yeah. So welcome in, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Cameron Arsenault. I am a freedom coach and founder of Operation Freedom and the Freedom System. So I'm all about helping coaches be able to launch and scale their businesses so that they have the freedom to travel the world. Whether or not they choose to do it like me, that's totally up to them. But just having the freedom to be able to do that is kind of what I'm all about. And, love to help people get started and launched. And like Max said, really based around the marketing, because that's one of the missing pieces I found for a lot of people when they're getting started, is really being able to how to put themselves out there, how to do that confidently. I'm excited to kind of help with these sessions to share with you guys some of the tips to be able to do that. And today we're going to be talking obviously about raising your price and that idea around that price discussion, which I know a lot of people are really uncomfortable with. So we're going to help you guys and share some tips with you guys to be able to get over that as a roadblock and be able to price your services correctly. So welcome in, and over to you, Mr. JL.
Before we go to JL, everybody go ahead. If you're interested with anything that you are hearing right now, go ahead and tag your friends in the comments box so that they know that we are live and then they can chime in the conversation. And also, if you have questions along the way, do not hesitate to post your questions there in the comments box. We should be able to see that. We'll bring that up. So, and that way we can also be a full service to you. JL, let's go to you, bro.
Thank you, guys. My name is JL De Castro. I'm also known as the Silent Craftsman, and I'm a digital artist and also traditional artist specializing in traditional animation and also sculpting and illustration, of course. And I try to put the traditional principles inside the digital medium. And I'm excited for today's topic. It's very common with us artists, actually. So we'll go back to you, Mac.
Yeah, you know what? That's so true, brother. A lot of artists are actually struggling with regard to pricing their service, especially because art is very subjective, right? And that is why if the artists don't even value themselves enough, that translates to their work, to their pricing, And it kind of communicates as well, their level of confidence, their belief in themselves, and the belief in their work, right? So, but let me throw this to Cameron. Cameron, what exactly are we talking about here when we talk about pricing?
One of the things, and I'm a big believer in, not a lot of people, we don't want to fight on pricing, right? You don't want to play that game where you're trying to undercut somebody and really playing that like race to the bottom, right? Because that's not going to help you. It's not going to help your business. It's not going to help you make the kind of progress that you would like to make. Mack mentioned some of the effects of not doing that properly. So one of the things I think when it comes to pricing, what's really going on here, it's not about the price. What we need to look at is get out of the price game and get into the value game. What's the value that you're providing your clients? What's the value of the time that you're giving them? What's the value of the expertise that you've built up over years or over months of studying, whatever it is that you guys are an expert in, right? We really need to look at the value. What's the value, especially, this is the biggest thing. What's the value of the result that you are giving your clients? Right? So many of us have been, brought up in, before you guys started in the business world, brought up in this place of, well, the value I provide is directly related to the amount of hours that I'm putting in.
Yeah.
Right. And being able to break that tie and no longer looking at it, it's just not the number of hours I put in. What's the value? What's the result? What's the benefit that my clients or my customers are going to get from buying my product or service? That's really the game that you want to play, is a game of value over the game of price.
So what do you think is getting in the way here? And I'm going to add an additional context around this, because there are two kinds of entrepreneurs or two kinds of salespeople. Okay, one is that there are salespeople who are actually selling other people's products or selling their company's products, right? So this could be freelancers, insurance advisors. I know that we have a lot of them who are also monitoring this call. Okay, they don't have any command with the price of the product, right? And the other kind of salespeople and entrepreneur would be, they are the ones who are actually creating their own products. Okay, so what do you think is getting in the way, and I know you've coached a lot of entrepreneurs from different parts of the world, what is the mindset that's getting in the way? What do you notice? Okay, I'm also going to ask JL in terms of, from the perspective of an artist, okay, what are some of the challenges that you have experienced along the way?
Yeah, in terms of that, when it comes down to what's kind of getting in the way, and this is this comes from my time in direct sales. We always talked about the first and the hardest sale generally to make isn't a customer, it's not a client. The first and most important sale you need to make is on yourself, right? You need to believe in the value that, again, whether it's like you said, there's two people, either you have control over the offer, what the price point is, or you're simply the one to go out and to present that and to sell that. And whichever camp you guys are in, ultimately it comes down to the same thing. Are you sold on the value of that product or service, whether it's something you create yourself or whether it's something that you're selling for somebody else? You need to understand the value. So you need to go through the exercise of figuring out, well, what's the real value that this product or service is providing to our clients?
Yeah.
Right. So the same exercise applies for both camps. It's just a matter of, for yourself, really understanding and diving deep and knowing why you're providing what you're providing, that product or service, and just understanding that that result, that benefit that you're getting the clients is worth whatever price you're charging. Right? You need to believe that it's worth the price before you're going to be able to convince anybody else that they should pay that amount for that product or service.
Yeah.
Over to you, JL.
Yeah, JL, what do you think, man?
Actually, that's what I was going to say first. Like the biggest sale that you have to make is to yourself. Like in my time, even while I was a professor, and it's common with my students, there's always this mental block that I'm not good enough. I am not like my other classmate. I don't have that good of grades, for my work, and nobody really buys my stuff and all that, all those things. It's psyching yourself out. And when I recognize that for myself, that's where the affirmation of the internal narrative starts to show up in front of me. Like when I thought that, yes, I am good enough and I don't have to be as realistic as this artist or as cartoony as this artist. I can just be who I am. That's where I got to know artists who are also they also think of themselves as not that good, but they're selling their art for, let's say, $10,000 a month. And the people, hello Annie, and Annie's driving, keep safe. And the next thing I think we should address is, let's say, from the perspective of an artist, it's also their experience with a certain type of client. you know I encounter this every time with my students who graduated, let's say, 4 years ago. There's always that customer there. There's always that customer who's asking for the discount, and
Right.
you just want to get that client, right? So it's kind of, you want there's a lot of pressure. I think pressure is one thing. Another one is, yeah, I'm not good enough. And third is, maybe we are immersing ourselves in the wrong type of client, and that's where marketing comes in. Yeah. And I'm done speaking for
Okay.
that for now.
Yeah, I think that's a very important aspect that you touch on there, JL, because I think a lot of people are running after the sale. Okay, and on what they actually miss out is that, or what they don't realize is that your prospects, they actually smell that if you're just going out there to trying to sell to them. And guess what? I mean, let me ask you. I mean, how many of you, all of you are listening right now, how many of you would like to be sold to? Because for me, I don't want to be sold to, right? I want to be able to make that decision for myself, because I know that if I'm buying a product or a service, whatever that is, I know I'd be able to use that. And I want to have full control over that decision, not because I was actually railroaded, or I was, how do you call that? Yeah, railroaded towards the sale, okay, or manipulated towards the sale. I don't want to have that feeling. Okay, I want to have a feeling that when I buy something, I'm actually getting more out of it. And this circles back to what Cameron is actually saying on the value game instead of the pricing game. Okay, and hello everybody. You can see that Annie's also with us. Annie, take care. You're driving. Okay, and when you can, okay, Annie, go ahead and chime in here in the conversation. I know that this is also one topic that you also help a lot of coaches along the way. And I remember back in Clubhouse, we had this conversation as well on how you're really able to price something, especially in Annie's space, okay? It's about helping people become better in their relationships, right? How do you put a price to that? So I'm very interested to also know your perspective around this one, Annie. Okay, and okay, so I'd like to chime in on what are some of the reasons why this could be happening. And this is what I noticed, okay? I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, okay, and a lot of them come from doing corporate work before, and they would decide, okay, enough of that, I want to start my own business, okay, and then they would transition towards entrepreneurship. And here's what I realized: a lot of them bring the mindset of an employee. And how does that look like? It's like they're still trading their time for money, because isn't it that that is what you do as an employee, right? You allocate 8 hours of your day to do the tasks that is predetermined for you to do. Cool. So again, that's not a criticism. All I'm simply saying is that the mindset of trading your time for money doesn't work for entrepreneurship. It doesn't work that way. Okay, and that is why, when it's especially, and I noticed this, Cam, JL, Annie, entrepreneurs who used to be already at a certain level in their profession. Let's say they're already managers, they're already leaders. They bring also with them some sort of hubris that, hey, I'm already a leader. That's why when I'm coming up with my product, with my ideas, with my thoughts, I have to price it higher. Okay, and I guess this is also the other side of the story. Okay, where they price themselves out of the market. Okay, now I'm gonna give you an example around this. Okay, not in the context of hubris, but in the context of transition. Okay, so the other day I was speaking with a good friend, and I've known him for several years in the tech space. Okay, he is a serial entrepreneur, very good at what he does. Okay, several customers from different parts of the world, and now he is in a stage where he's transitioning into another chapter in his life. And he decides that, Mac, okay, enough of that. I got the money handled. It continues to give me passive income. Okay, so what he did was that he started writing a book. He's published it, and came up with a course on human behavior and psychology. Okay, and now he has a program. And so I asked him, wow, this is totally new, totally different, a different form of you. And he's asking me, Mac, okay, can we partner on this? Okay, so, and I said, okay, so what's gonna be the price point? Do you have a following? Something? No, I don't have a following yet. Okay, but you know what I do. Okay, and yeah, no question about that. Credibility is very high, but I had to be upfront and honest with him. I had to tell him that yes, you may be very good as an entrepreneur, but in this new space, nobody knows you. Okay, I know you. We're good friends. I know that you are, what you say is worth it, but in that space, nobody knows you. So how then would you be able to price yourself properly if nobody knows you yet? Okay, does this make sense, team? Everyone who is watching and listening right now, just type MS there in the comments box. And if you have a question there as well, okay, type it there. Okay, good. Anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, it's one of the things that recently, and like you said, like whether it's someone that's first starting like in a brand new space or a brand new chapter, or someone who's just launching their first business, or even if you've been in business a while. So this client had actually already been in this space for a little while. And one of the things you need to realize is that this idea of where to price your service when it comes to the price thing, because really when you break it down, it kind of comes a little bit from this imposter syndrome, right? Like, is what I have to offer really worth it? And I think a lot of times it's that thought, that idea isn't going to go away. We're just going to get better and better at being able to notice that happening and then go and take action anyway. Because that's exactly, so for example, just reminded me of one of my clients, Blaze, that I worked with. And he was the same thing. Like, he was in the health space. He was like a personal trainer. He helped people get some amazing results. But still, when it came to when I was working with him and looking at his price point, which was much lower than it should have been.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like he was brand new. Like, he'd already been working with people, getting some amazing results. There's one lady, I think, that, had lost like 120 pounds or something crazy like that, like really changing people's lives, but was not charging what his service was worth. And so even when you're at that stage, because you think that, okay, once I start getting client results, like that thought's going to go away, right? It doesn't go away. We just get better at handling it. Because, with Blaze, we work through, and this is kind of relates to your question earlier, Mac, about what's that missing piece? Like, what's kind of going on here? I think one of the things, like we mentioned, is, right, being able to sell yourself on the value of your product or service. One of the other things that I think is a really good key to kind of unlocking that confidence and being confident in being able to price your product and services appropriately is knowing how to just communicate that value. Right? To take the minute, whether it's working with someone, whether it's going through a framework, right? Just understanding, like, how do you communicate your value, right? Because if you are really clear on how you communicate your value, because most people haven't thought about it. They're just like, I do this, I provide this service, but haven't thought any deeper than that level. So if you guys dig deeper into, okay, what's the value that I'm really providing here, right? Write that down, right? Put that together in a document that you can have in front of you. You can, anytime you're questioning, should I charge this much? Am I able to up my prices? You look back at that document and just like remember all of the value that you're actually providing. Because one of the biggest things, I think, once you know how to communicate that properly, that's going to be a huge.
Cameron, we're losing you. Okay, and while Cameron is trying to reconnect, okay, hey man, you just froze there. Okay, Jerica has a question. Jerica is not with us today. Okay, she's not feeling well, but okay, she's monitoring in the channels, and she's asking, okay, so if that's the case, how will you price yourself then when nobody knows you? Okay, if nobody knows you yet, how do you actually price yourself? And so, yeah, Annie, you're raising your hand. You want to chime in on this?
Yes, I do. I'm actually at the light, so I can actually talk. So first of all, I just want to say sorry to everybody. I got caught up in a meeting, and I'm not going to talk while I'm driving much. But what I want to say is something that I learned from Blaise Singer. He talked about the power ladder. It's called Power Letter. So when you could be a coach, but if you're niching into a completely new subject, you actually need to start as an unknown. So it's not about how much should I charge, it's what can I offer people so I can gain the trust. So you can do a whole bunch of stuff for a while, and like with all this organic marketing, just show up and give people value. Because if people start to feel you that you're coming from a good place and that your number one priority is them, they're going to start asking you, oh, do you teach this? Can I talk to you privately? Can I blah, 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 blah. I have to move right now because I've got traffic behind me, but I'm going to pull over something because this is very important. So start with like the guy with the book. Whatever's in a book, start talking about it to people. And then you offer. And then when you get the interest, that's when, sorry, somebody just tried to call me. Are you there?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So, and then when you got that trust from people and they start to clearly like you, then you can say, hey, this is what I've got. All right. And then you start charging, right? You already know your value, especially if you're a coach. You already know what your value is as a coach. So then why not start something fresh and then give value, and then after that, start charging. I think people are so caught up in making the money, they forget that let people get to know this new thing that I have. You know, I mean, I've been doing mindset for, oh my God, for 10 years, whereas now I need to start doing relationships. So I'm not concerned about right now, you know, how much it is, even though I already have a program and people are paying for it, right? Yeah. But, you know, when the COVID kicked in 2020, I spent that whole year just sharing. Knowledge about relationships. That's all I did for a full year. But what that did is by the end of the year, it actually cemented me as a relationship architect. So when people said Annie Callis, they said, oh, the relationships architect. So once you do that, because you give value, then after that, it's much easier to then start bringing in, you know, okay, I've got this program, I've got this, I've got that. So it's worth, I'm not saying do it for a whole year, but I do believe, and that's on the back of what JL was saying, you know, it's just show up and then. And the other thing that I want to share is self-concept. And within self-concept, you have your own self-image, you have your self-belief, and you have your self-worth. If you don't believe that your knowledge is worth whatever it's worth, you are never going to share that with confidence. And what happens is when people, and I can say this because I had this experience, oh, they're not going to pay. That was about me. That was about my ego. It was about, oh, they're not going to pay. They're not going to like me. Now, hang on a minute. What have I got to give them? What is all the things that I learned over the years that I can offer? So when I shifted that mindset and I stepped into 100% awareness and listened to what they want, everything that I have to offer with every problem that they had, I was able to say, well, have you considered this? Have you considered that? Well, you know, when I do this course, this is what I teach. Would you like that? And eventually they were like, oh, I'd love it. I have to have it. Right? Now, it doesn't work with everybody, but this is where you're sifting through, because some people say, yeah, I want help, but they're not willing to do the work. Right? So I don't know, does any of that make any sense?
That's cool. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, very good reminder. We all start as unknown at that stage, right? When we are about to launch a product or a business. Doesn't really matter even if it's your product or not your product, right? Okay, Cam, so we're talking about Jerica's question here in the chat. Okay, she's asking, okay, how will you price yourself then when nobody knows you yet? Okay, I guess in the context of organic marketing, what's your take around this? And let me also go to JL. Um, for especially for budding artists, for example. Okay, those are just starting out. How can they price themselves? Okay, because I don't know, especially in
Yeah.
being an artist with art. How, yeah, how do you price that? It's kind of linked with the artist, right?
Yeah.
So,
Uh, so I'll answer this first because I think it's a journey of clarity, and the word clarity came to my head when Annie was starting to talk, and I was talking about this with a director in animation. So she owns the animation studio, and she actually gives a very simple solution for how to price yourself. What is the cost of your business? So what's the cost of your business? What's the cost of the skill? So an example would be, let's say, an advanced animator versus a beginner animator. Advanced animator can do, let's say, 500 drawings a week. A beginner animator can do, let's say, 200 of that. So then you go into costing. So it costs this much. It costs also this much to maintain the electricity and the rent of my studio. And then at the back end, that's how I calculate how much I am worth. So
mm,
how much does it take to maintain my house, my rent, my water, my electricity, and also the cost of my materials, and a little bit more for the skill that I value myself at.
mm,
That's what I give to the client. Because there are clients out there that inquire with the studio and they say, "Oh, can you give me a 2-hour movie for 30,000 pesos?" And I just want a simple animation, but their pegs are like Arcane, Walt Disney, Beauty and the Beast, and I'm like, okay, there we need some clarity on this. This is the value. This is what we can do for you. This is our price, and that's it. And
yeah.
there's also the internal space. I
Mm,
have to be also willing to let go of the client if they can't pay me the amount I'm worth. And
mm,
that's actually very important to even a freelancer. And also speaking of discounts. About discounts, I observe it's just two things. It's either people are seeing me for the first time, it's my first time being out there in business, or it's the client who encountered you for the first time.
mm, mm, mm.
And what strikes me is that the fact that they inquired with me means that they find value in the first place. That's why they inquired. And they're just seeking more clarity into, is it true that I'm getting value for, inquiring with this guy?
Mm.
And that's where you go into, yeah, a clarification conversation, as I would term it. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, good. Let me go to Cam. Cam, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts around this? How do you price yourself when nobody knows you yet?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And I love what you mentioned, JL, about clarity. I
We lost you for a moment, Cam.
Yeah, we lost your mic, Cam.
Lost your audio. We lost your mic. Can't hear you.
chopping out here, I believe.
Go. You're back.
Oh, are we back? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
One more time. Then we
Okay.
lost you again.
So I'll apologize for that for the
And
when I
you're back.
cut out there a bit earlier. That's sometimes the joys of going around. So okay. I think there's some
Okay.
there's
The
some
signal has to travel
miscommunication going on
halfway
here.
around the world. So that's why. Yeah, I think you have to bounce off your audio to the satellite, and since it's moving, there's time. It needs to have that handover. So that's why we're losing you halfway around the world. So while you're fixing up your gear, okay, I'd like to chime in on this. How then can you price yourself when nobody knows you? I had that same question, Jerica, to my coach. Okay, back then when I was starting out. Okay, and so I asked my coach, okay, how am I gonna do this coaching thing? How am I supposed to price my services? And well, there are a couple of two schools of thought that I'd like to share with everybody. The first one is that it's about experimenting. Okay, meaning to say it's about prototyping. It's about doing interviews, and it's about doing in at the beginning, what I did a lot of pro bono work. And after doing that, I actually asked them, so based on the value that you got, how much should I price this service if I was going to do this with another group, if I was going to do this with another client? So, and guess what? Those people who were in that pro bono workshop, they tell me the value that they're getting out of it. And what I've come to realize is that I had no idea on the value to begin with. And it's always different every time. So what's the message there? The message there is that while we have some sort of an idea on our expertise, okay, the way it's going to land, the way it's going to help people is still very much dependent on how the clients are going to be perceiving it. And they get to decide on that value. But as you keep on talking about it, as you do it more frequently, you'd be able to see a pattern that, yeah, you know what? It seems like every time I would go and talk and coach people, it builds their confidence. It shows them the brightness of the future. It helps them move forward with their goals. Okay, it makes things much faster for them. It helps them grow their sales. Okay, so say for example, one client I helped was that they were able to build, and they call this, it's called an edge business, and that business in the course of 4 months was able to generate a revenue of 400,000 US. Okay, is that cool? In the course of 4 months during the pandemic. Okay, so that was able to arrest the decline of that company by doing a strategy planning session with them. Okay, so let me ask you then, if that is the case, what then is the value of that strategy planning session? If I can help you create a business that would generate 400,000 US, how much then are you willing to pay someone who can help you create that? Does that make sense? So that's on the pricing part. And again, Jerica, in my case, if nobody knows me yet, then go out there and serve and help as many people as possible. Show them, communicate it to them. Okay, back to you, Cam. I hope your gear is better now.
Yeah, well, let's see if we're able to kind of keep the things working here. So that's one of the beauties of being able to travel around. Sometimes you get to have fun with some interesting internet connections. So yeah, my apologies for those of you tuning in when I cut out early and all that kind of stuff, but that's part of the experience, right? So when it comes to valuing, what it is you're doing, there's lots of ways that you can look at starting out. Actually, one example that comes to mind, JL, just with yourself and around the art thing that I heard recently is like, sometimes it takes some, digging and some research, but you can actually figure out something that you would think is not very, it's hard to put a number, let's say, for example, on art. There's actually a company out of the US. It's one of the biggest art dealers, and they sell art to hospitals, right? So the art that you see in most hospitals around the US is probably all sold by this one company. But what did they do is they went and looked at, they had done studies, and they had seen that, okay, having art in hospitals actually helps patients heal X amount quicker, or helps them have less traumatic effects. Like they actually went and did the hard work. So sometimes it's hard to figure what that value is, but even something like art, right? If you really dig into it, you can figure out here's ways where an actual value that you can kind of compare to and look at some numbers. Now, that's one way to go out and look at it, but there's lots of other ways as well. There's one of the few ways, and actually before we talk about the few ways, I just want to talk briefly about, I think, the mindset around this pricing thing. So when you look at it, because we talked a little bit about earlier about, this kind of employee kind of mentality you mentioned, Mack, right? Where, you come and your value is tied to the amount of hours. The other thing I think that is kind of a companion or a brother to that value, that belief system, is that price is fixed, right? This is the price and that's it. It doesn't change, right? It's a fixed price. And again, that's, I think, another mindset where we get out of, the value, the price can change. I always say that the price is mainly irrelevant. It's really more about the value. So how can you compare, find something that's similar value and use that as an initial place to start your price? Because we can always change it later. So you can look at things like, what's the value of a competitor? Right? So kind of like what JL mentioned about if I can do this and a more junior designer can do this, then I should be worth this much more, right? Because I can produce that much more. So you can look at competitors as ways to kind of gauge, where should I start off with my value? Another one that I don't think people do often enough is look at the alternatives. So this may not apply for everybody, but let's say as a health coaching example, right? You have a program where you help people lose weight and get in better shape. Well, what are some of the alternatives? If people are trying to get that as a result, right? To lose weight and to get in better shape, what are the alternatives that they could go to try to get that same result? Because ultimately that's what we're doing, is we're providing a result. So what are some alternatives? Well, they could hire a personal trainer, right? They could go and buy a bunch of equipment at home. They could go get a gym membership. Look at some of those alternatives and you'll start to paint that picture of, well, what do they value that result at, right? By looking at some of the competitors. And then the other thing as well, I mean, like for JL, like, you know, how long did it take you to build up that kind of expertise? But if you just look at the time and if you just put like okay, I value my time at X dollars an hour. So let's say $20 an hour. It took me 3 years to build up this skill set. Well, you just do the simple.
We lost you, Cam. No audio. We lost you. There's no audio. Okay. Let me
Math of hours times how many hours you spent learning that, just to get an idea.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Might be back. But yeah, so again, those are just some of the ways that you can look at, you know, comparing yourself to a competitor, comparing yourself to an alternative, looking at the value of the time, right? What time did you put in to build that expertise? So those are just a couple different ways you can look at what is the value that you have to bring to the table.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so okay, one question for everybody. Okay, and again, this is to support people who are tuning in and they are not selling their own product; they are selling other people's product. Okay, they are salespeople. Okay, how would you price that if that's the case? What's your take around pricing if they have no control to begin with over what they can sell? But example for insurance advisors, what they have is they have an entire portfolio, right, of products, and they can actually have a high ticket offer, okay, or position the product where it can be low ticket. Okay, so what's your take around that when they don't have full control around it? Cam, let's go to you.
So maybe I'll jump in terms of what are ways that we can do that. If you don't have control over the offer, again, one of the big things is because price is relative. So I think you mentioned earlier, Mac, like whenever you're going and looking at buying something, you want the value of what you get in return.
Okay, Cam, we lost you. Let's go to Annie.
Okay, so if it's not in your control, then you have to, like in this case, you know, a lot of the people that you deal with are in insurance, so they got to understand the value of what they offer. So whatever the company has, the company put a price on it, so they figured it out that people are going to get that much value for this much amount. And surely in an industry like insurance, they have different levels, right? And it's actually, I would say, is learn everything there is to learn about the product and fully understand it. And then ask questions when people say, oh my God, that's so expensive. Expensive compared to what? Have you looked at this before? Like I ask people, have you had any other professional support? And they go, yeah, okay, I've seen a psychologist. Great. So what was your investment? How much did you pay? And then they tell me, and I said, okay, so what was the outcome? Well, it wasn't really an outcome. And then I say, okay, so if we work back, you know, my product, the total, and we work it back, you know, into how many sessions, how many hours, it actually becomes cheaper than what the other professional was. So I work with them and I get them to do it on their calculator, not mine, theirs, right? And then I just go, okay, so you're going to get this, and this. Is that something that's of benefit to you? Yes. How would that benefit you? So I talk with them because I want them to see or understand or feel what they're going to get. So is that a value? So sometimes they say, oh my God, that is just so expensive. Okay, so tell me more. And then they do the discount. Can you give me a discount? Okay, so the full program, including all these things that I told you, this is the value. What is it that you can afford? Oh, I can afford this much. Okay, so I can do that for you, but what it means is that you're not going to get the full thing, because the value of the full thing is this much. So what is of importance to you? What do you want to experience first, or something like that? And then we can actually personalize it for them. And when I let them choose, when I let them decide their own, in the end they go with the full shebang. But they have choice. They have choice, and that's really important. I just want to say something on what Cameron said before. Is when you look at the amount of hours that you have put in, and some of us, who are coaches, I've been studying this for 12 years. I have put in tens of thousands of hours in practice daily. So how much money did I invest in my education? How many hours did I put in? So there is value with that, because I practice. How many hours did I put in giving free value on social media, right? All that adds up. And even if you don't have a first client, when they say, well, how many couples have you helped? Thousands, because they were all online watching my stuff and saying, thank you for that, I needed to hear this. That's a couple, or that's a person that I already helped, because whatever I said, they actually implemented it, and sometimes they come back and they say it works. So when you look at your value, look at how many hours you put in. And for those people that actually are certified by somebody to teach somebody else's product, that product already has a price. Figure out what your hourly rate is for the service that you provide. But let's say you've got a coaching program, goes for 8 weeks, it's $3,995, divided in 8, divided in 2 hours per session, because some coaches don't do on the hour and then it's done. Because if somebody's in the middle of a process, you don't want to stop the process, right? So it can go over. So when you figure that one out, you actually know your value, because you are certified, you did the work, you invested, and you put in the hours to actually get qualified to teach that product, if it's somebody else's product. And there and then is your hourly rate. So then whatever you create, build it out from there. But you know your value already.
Yeah.
And when it sits well with you, go, yes, I put in all this hours. Yes, I paid this much money. Right. And when you feel good, when you found your self-worth, it's very easy to then put it out there. Does it make sense?
Thank you, Annie.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're reaching the top of the hour, and team, so I've posted there in the chat box, okay, a link to a Telegram group. Okay, if this topics actually interest you, go ahead, click on that link, and everyone is also going to be posting it in their own channels. That's going to take you to the Telegram. And go ahead, copy that link and send that to your friends as well. Invite them over. Okay. Annie, Cameron, JL, and I, Jerica, are going to be there in the Telegram group. Okay. And you can also interact with the rest of the entrepreneurs there. Okay. So I'm going to go once around the room. What's your final take on this? What's your final message around the context and the topic of pricing as we close this conversation on exponential traction? Let me go to you, JL, go to Cameron, to Annie, and then we'll close this up. JL?
Yes, for me, it's belief and clarity. So belief that that you are good enough, that you are valuable, your service is valuable, or your skill is valuable, and then clarify what that means. So does that mean in pesos? Does that mean in whatever you're costing? And also, how are you going to communicate that value? And translate that in pretty much every communication that you have, whether it's social media or even in private conversations. And that's all from me.
All right. Thanks, man. Cam, are you back?
I think so. We'll
Good.
keep this one short. Keep this one short before that happens again. But I think the biggest thing really is, again, when we're looking at the price conversation, try to not look at the price as much as you can. Look at the value clarify what it is that you're actually bringing to the table. What is the result and the benefit that they get from your service? We really flip the script and focus on that as our key focus point, right? The price comes after. Focus on the value, get clear on what that is, on the result that you're providing, right? And then work your way backwards from that back to what price you should charge.
Cool. Excellent. Let me go to Annie. Annie, your final thoughts for this afternoon for you, morning for us.
Yes, fall in love with your client. They need you, especially in insurance. They need you. They have peace of mind. So listen to what they need and then say, I have a solution for you. May I share this with you? Get permission. And this is, we talked about effective communication. Listen with intention, be present, acknowledge, and then, after that you offer. But love them. They're beautiful human beings. You fall in love with your client and they will fall in love with you because you come from a heart space. You give them value. And when you have clarity about, I am here to change these people's lives. It's not just I'm selling insurance. It's very important because it's clarity and it's peace of mind for the whole family, right? Like, let's say in the example of insurance, right? So fall in love with your client. That's my take for today.
Thank you, Annie. Those are very nice and wonderful reminders. Okay, and here's my take on this, and I'd like to close it off with this. Earlier today, I had a conversation with my mentor and with my coach, and in that conversation, he actually showed me his funnel on a program that is launched 3 days ago. And as he was showing me the funnel, so I can see there the number of people who are actually already paid. Okay, so money already went through; it's already with him. You know how much his programs are. Okay, it's 20,000 US. And you can see people are lining up for that program. In the Philippines, that's equivalent to about 1 million pesos. So is that expensive? Now here's what I'm going to tell you. It's not. It's actually valuable. Okay, and here's what I noticed. Those people who are also lining up to join his program are also very successful in their own right. But how come he was able to actually price himself around that level? What I realize, it's because he's also worth that, meaning to say, the value that he puts out there is also a reflection of the results that he creates for himself, first and foremost, because he has built multi-million-dollar businesses, meaning to say, he is in the practice. In that way, he's able to communicate that he is actually worth it. What he has done as well is that he is able to transfer the knowledge to his coachees, okay, to his clients, and they were able to become more successful in their businesses as well. So it proves to show that he has a system that is repeatable, that's replicable, and actually creates more, how do you call this? Repeatable and remarkable results, right? So, and in that sense, team, if you are challenged with regard to pricing your product and service, a lot of the conversations here is about value, but more importantly as well is being able to communicate that value. Okay, so go out there, serve, and help a lot of people. This is why you have to love marketing. Okay, and this is why we're teaching you marketing. Who are the best people who can teach you that? You have Cameron here, you have Annie, you have JL. Okay, good. So that's why it's very important that you join us in the Exponential Traction chat room. It's there in the chat box, in the comments box. Go ahead, click that link, and we'll see you there. That's it for today. Happy weekend, everybody. Remember, we're doing this on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. 11 o'clock in the morning, Philippine Asia time. Okay, Australia time, that's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If you are from India, that would be about 8 in the morning, I think, 8:30 in the morning. So you should be able, no, 9:30 in the morning. You should be able, oh my gosh. So all of this,
Time zones. Gotta love it.
Right? So again, because we're broadcasting this all over the world. So make sure to put that in your calendar so that you'd be able to join us, okay? And participate here. And what else you can do? You'll be able to interact with other people from different parts of the world through this platform. Okay, and leverage on that. Okay, truly appreciate all of you guys. Annie, take care. If you're still driving, JL, Cameron, thank you for staying up late. Okay, for doing this for everyone in the community. Good. And
right.
take care.
Thanks so much, team.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, and also everyone who watched.
you, everyone.